Alright, today I'm going to show you how to make a slab cylindrical box. The first few things that you're going to need to get is a PVC pipe or a rolling pin, a separate piece of canvas, and then a slab of clay that I will cut for you, and it will be lengthwise. If you've noticed, it's not the short pieces, it's the whole length of clay. This will save you time in the rolling process. Again, so you're going to need your paint sticks. So the clay is going to go in between two paint sticks. You want a little bit of room for your width because you're going to be measuring with a template. So you're going to want to make sure that it's the right width for your template. Then I'm going to go ahead and put my piece of canvas with the canvas texture. Some of them have plastic backing. You don't want the plastic on the back of them. You want to go ahead and have the canvas on top. And then I'm going to go ahead and roll. I may need to stand to roll just because it gives me a little bit more pressure. And I'm going to continue rocking it gently, but making sure that part of my PVC pipe is out touching the paint sticks on each side. And this is how it keeps your thickness of your clay the right thickness, so it's not too thick in one spot and too thin in another. Okay, so now I have my slab rolled out, and it's exactly a 1/4 inch because again the paint sticks are the 1/4 inch thickness. So now my slab is consistent all the way through. I have my cardboard template, which I've made for you, so you have the exact measurements so that it's even on both sides, so you don't have something incorrect. But we need to place it on your slab so that it's even. Now when you go to cut this, you need to be very precise. When you build with slabs, you need to have everything nice and neat and tight and clean. You can't have crooked edges. So you may want to stand up and start at the corner. Hold your template firm so it doesn't move. And you're going to cut fairly quickly your pieces away. I go ahead and just pull my pieces off as I go. That way it doesn't, at least it has the cardboard support, so it doesn't wrinkle anything or mess up anything. So I'm just going to pull my pieces away. And I always find that it works better if you pull towards you versus trying to go horizontal. So if you notice when I did the top piece, I moved. So when I was pulling down towards me, same as I'm doing here. It just helps you not get crooked lines. It helps your lines stay straight. When you pull it off, you have nice straight lines. Now you have to remove it off your canvas. I recommend pulling your canvas up and then gently folding it over on your hand so you can peel the canvas off the back of your piece of clay. If you try to just lift it off, a lot of times you'll bend or warp something, so I'll just move the whole tablecloth here so I can remove my piece off the canvas. Now the next step you need to do is bevel your edges where they're going to connect. Now this piece of clay that I rolled out here is actually going to wrap around a tube, so it makes it into a cylinder. And the pieces that are going to touch are going to be these end pieces, and I need to cut something called a bevel on each edge so that way they'll fit together. Now it's a little tricky process, but you need to pay very close attention. I'm going to take my piece of clay and bring it to the edge of the table in front of me. Okay, so we moved the camera in closer so you can see a better way to how to cut your bevels. Since bevels are a little hard to kind of understand from far away, we move the camera closer so you can see. So if you notice, the slab is parallel to the table down below, and it's right on the edge. And the first one is really easy. You're just going to place your thumb at the bottom of the slab closest to you, and you're going to use the cutting tool or knife tool, depending on what you call it, and you're going to hold it at an angle to the table. So when I rest on the table, it sits at kind of about a 45-degree angle. It's not exact, but it's close. And what you're going to do is just slice through your clay, and it's cutting the bottom part off, and you can barely see the knife on the top part right through. And I continue all the way through, and I leave my thumb here so that when I cut the angle, my thumb stops the knife. The reason why you want to do that is because if you just pull through, what it's going to do is tug at your clay, and it's going to pull and rip off half your corner. The next part that you need to do is you're going to flip your clay. So you're not just going to rotate it around, you're actually flipping it on itself. So I'm just going to take this clay piece and I'm going to flip and lay it down flat on the table and butt it. And I'm going to do the same thing I just did to this piece. I'm going to make sure it matches up to my corner. I'm going to go ahead and have my thumb on the end. And I'm going to lay my knife at a 45-ish 45-degree angle. There we go, I can't talk today. And then we're going to slice right through again. and then my thumb's here to stop it, and then I pull the clay away, and I have my angles for my pieces. Okay, now I have the bevels cut on my slab. I'm ready to roll my slab onto the carpet tube, but there's one important thing before you roll it on the carpet tube is you have to put something to keep the clay from sticking to the carpet tube, because you need to be able to remove the carpet tube off of your slab fairly quickly. So what I have is a newspaper, and you just need one full sheet, and you fold it in half, and then you're gonna start with the base of your tube lining up. You're going to have a little extra on one end, and that's what you want. You're just going to roll the paper onto the tube so it sits flush, and then all you're going to do is fold the newspaper around the edge, and the newspaper will stay on. It's not going to come off. Okay? And then what you're going to do is just put the little flip side, and you're going to start at the slab part that's closest to you. And I'm going to pull the slab up from the table and wrap it onto the cardboard tube. But I'm going to make sure I start at the bottom, or on the clean side. Let's flip this. There we go. You want the clean side to be your bottom. And I'm going to continue rolling up and then down, and then it's going to pick up my piece of clay. Now these bevels, if you did this correctly, you're actually going to line up exactly together, and they're going to fit. But before you put them together, you need to score and slip them. So I'm going to leave them just loosely apart so I can score and slip and put those two pieces together. So let me go ahead and do that. You want to score both angles where they're going to be touching. And you're going to add your slip. Some more slip here. Remember to slip both sides. Now, I know some of you got a little relaxed when you were coil billeting and you weren't necessarily slipping everything as perfectly as you could have or as much. When you slab build, it is very important that you actually score and slip when you attach these two joints together, because that will cause a huge weak spot and cause your cylinder to crack. So then I'm going to very carefully press my seam together and let the slip kind of ooze out a little bit. Make sure everything matches up right. And then I'm just going to pull over with my finger and wipe off the excess and rub it smooth. And get all the little chunks. The trick is to keep this as even as possible. I'll then go back with my metal rib and smooth up my walls so that that seam is nice and clean. What's important is you're going to have to do a very similar thing on the inside here a little bit, and I'll show you how to do that. Now, we're going to make the base part for your cylinder to sit on. So in the next shot, I'll show you how to roll out your base and your top piece for your cylinder. Okay, so I've just rolled out another slab of clay so I can make the top and bottom piece. I followed the same instructions as before. I have my 2 paint sticks, I rolled out the slab, and now I'm ready to make the top and bottom piece. So what you're going to do is very carefully take your cylinder that's still on the tube, and you're going to set it onto your slab of clay, and you're going to trace around the edge. I wouldn't try cutting it out because you might gash your cylinder that's on here, but trace your circle first with a needle tool. And then take it off and very carefully cut out your circle. And then I'm going to trace it again, so I have one for my top. And I'm pressing almost all the way in, so when I go back over to trace again, I can just cut the bottom little section that's left. I just don't want to nick or mar my cylinder that's sitting here. gonna cut straight lines so then I can pull the slab just like if you were using a cookie cutter for cookies. And I'm gonna pull my slabs apart so I can get my circles out. Now I need to clean up my circles because they're not ready to be attached yet because they're still pretty rough. So I'm just gonna sit with a damp sponge and not dripping wet, but a damp sponge, and just clean up, and they're still really soft. So you might not need too much of a damp sponge, but I'll lift up the canvas and peel the canvas off the slab so it doesn't distort the shape too much. So let's go ahead and clean up your edges here. Okay, so I have both the top and bottom ready to go, and they're all been smoothed out. I'm just going to move my top piece over to the side for now because I can't put it on quite yet, but we're going to attach your bottom on first. So what you're going to do is score the outside area here about a 1/4 inch in all the way around the circumference of your circle here. So I'm going to score my slab. All the way around. And then I'm going to hold and gently score the circumference of my tube. Okay, now I've added slip to both pieces and they're both scored. I'm going to gently take my cylinder and set it on top of the base that I have, and I'm just going to gently squish so that way the slip kind of oozes out on the sides. And then I'm going to use my wood tool. Let me clean it off, it's got slip on it. And I'm going to pull part of the slab up to the cylinder with the wood tool. And I'm using the rounded bevel side. And I'm just going to pull it up and blend that seam in all the way around. Then once it's blended in, I can gently pick it up off the table and hold it in my hand and use my, you don't want to let it sit because you just attach this slab, it's going to pull the slab off and rip it on your seam. So you're going to gently kind of hold it in your lap, and you're going to use your metal rib and the flat side to your metal rib, and you're just going to start blending in the edges of that base slab into the edges or the side of your slab here. And you're just going to keep going around and blending that seam in. I'm just going to take my sponge after I've used the rib tool and blended everything in. I'm just going to take my sponge and round, or my finger too, you can use that as well. This guy's a little soft for water. And you're going to blend in and round off your edge here. So I'm just pulling it down and rounding the corner. You don't want to have a sharp corner, because with slabs, a lot of these really sharp corners are going to chip. They'll get knocked slightly, and then you'll have big chips taken out. And they chip less if you have rounded edges. So even though they're crisp and nice and straight, you'll just kind of round off your edge on your slab, so that way it doesn't chip or break on you. So I'm just about finished here. Now, when you get to this stage, this should be the end of your first class period working, because the most important thing is you have to take the tube out of your clay at the end of class. You can't leave the tube on your clay overnight. It's very important that you pay attention to that fact, because if you leave your tube on here, what's going to happen is clay shrinks, remember? About 10% when it dries. This tube is paper. It's sucking the moisture from your clay. So your clay is shrinking as it dries, so it's going to dry and shrink tight to your tube. And then you can't get the tube off, and half the time, especially right where you attached it, you get a huge crack. And then you can't salvage your piece. It's leather hard and it's stuck. And then we can't fix it, and you have to do it all over again. So the trick is to get your slab length rolled out and your base put on in one class period, which is plenty of time. So all I'm going to do is take my newspaper and pull that top up. I'm going to stick my hand inside the carpet tube, and I'm just going to expand my hand out like this, like a claw, and it pulls the carpet tube out without damaging your pot. And then all I have to do is crinkle the newspaper, twist, and then we can reuse the newspaper.